From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Hello and welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Sarah Jens.
And I'm Madeline Amati. Right now, the university is recommending that students take shelter as there's currently a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 12:15. There's also a tornado watch in effect for Orange County until 1 p.m. And initially, there was supposed to be a siren warning drill today, but that has been postponed to tomorrow. If you hear the tornado sirens, those are real and you should seek shelter.
We have been watching Franklin Street and what has been happening there since the weather. We can see the signs are swinging back and forth. There's water droplets on the lens, water underneath the cars. If we come back to campus, there's a stream of water flowing on the path as students walk to class. Their umbrellas have been blowing in the wind, turning inside out. But students are still going to class, but it is recommended if you don't have to be outside to stay indoors.
That's right, Sarah, and we've seen students taking shelter right outside of our studio underneath the awning. You can see one student walking by with their umbrella flipping inside out right there in front of us. It's pretty quiet right now, but just a few minutes ago, there were a bunch of students walking by for class transition time. So again, this thunderstorm warning is in effect until 12:15 p.m., and you should seek shelter in the meantime.
So that's still for another 45 minutes, but it can be extended. Let's cross to our meteorologist, Megan, and what you need to know in this weather.
Yeah, Sarah, we're going to want to pay attention to the difference between a thunderstorm watch and a thunderstorm warning. Right now, we are under a thunderstorm warning, which means it's time to seek shelter immediately. Your warnings are when it's time to take action. With a watch, that means that it's possible. So right now, what we really want to emphasize is that it's time to go inside if you can. I know many of us are headed to class right now, but if possible, you're better off trying to stay inside, especially because of all of that wind and all of that rain. It's going to throw debris around. And if you have any outdoor items, now would be a great time to bring them inside with all of the wind. Now, we're under a level 3 enhanced risk for today. I know this looks like a lot, but I will break this down for you. This means that we're going to have a high confidence of several storms today with damaging winds, severe hail, and even possibly tornadoes. Now, the thunderstorms today are going to be between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., but we're also going to see those damaging winds up to 50 miles per hour. A little bit earlier when I was checking my weather app, they were seeing 60 miles per hour also happening right now. So we definitely want to be inside and securing anything that we have outdoors, indoors, that way it's not flying around. We can see that most of that enhanced area is over North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, and a little bit of Virginia. And then our other areas have slight risks, but for our area, we want to be paying attention to that. Now, we're under a tornado watch right now, like I just went through before. Your watch is what the conditions are possible. Right now, we want to make sure that we are paying attention to where our best place in our home to be. That would be on the bottom floor, on the most interior place in your home, away from any windows, and we don't want to be outdoors at all if we are moving towards a tornado warning. A tornado warning means it's happening or it's about to happen, and that is when you need to seek shelter.
We have got our reporter Ben Malovic out on the field. Ben, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with this weather.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I'm out here just outside of the Student Union where it's actually slowed down with the rain. Maybe 10 minutes ago, the rain was much stronger, coming down much heavier. We can have a good judgment of how much rain there really was behind me with the pit, which usually fills up a lot when the rain is strong. Operations are still continuing here on campus as normal for the most part. We've seen a couple tour groups walk by so far today, but later in the day, the baseball game, which was supposed to happen against Charleston, got postponed to a later day. In terms of the wind, it's actually died down. It was really bad earlier this morning. I actually was woken up at about 4:30 a.m. with wind whistling outside of my window, but it's since calmed down and the rain is coming straight down as opposed to scattering all over the brick here in the Union. That's about all I have outside. I'm going to try and go inside. Like you guys said, the best thing Tar Heels can do today is just to stay dry.
Thank you so much, Ben. And again, stay tuned for more updates on these storms. A reminder that the university sent out an Alert Carolina, and we are under an extreme thunderstorm warning until 12:15 p.m. Please seek shelter if you are able to. And this storm has caused us to postpone the siren test that was initially supposed to occur today. It will now happen tomorrow between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Those signed up to receive alerts should receive a message, and the outdoor sirens will sound on campus. The university said in an email that no further action will be needed. If you hear those sirens today, we want to remind you that those are real and you should take shelter.
Continue to monitor the weather and stay safe. So we'll move on to our next story. Smoke and fire still cover parts of North and South Carolina as the battle against the forest fires continue. This map from the North Carolina Forest Service shows the 166 fires burning across the state in the past 2 weeks, of which about 34 are not yet 100% contained. There was one in Orange County Sunday, northeast of Hillsborough, but that one is now at 100% control. The National Weather Service said the incoming storms will only make fighting these fires harder. The Carolina Forest Fire has burned over 5,000 acres in South Carolina so far. Almost 500 acres have burned in North Carolina as well. The U.S. Forest Service has warned against burning outdoors and said to stay on top of restrictions.
There are now 25% tariffs on all goods imported from Mexico and Canada, according to the White House. After delaying the promised tariffs for 30 days in February, President Trump says Canada and Mexico and China are out of time to negotiate the tariffs. They went into effect Tuesday at midnight, and the stock market dropped significantly as fears grow that these tariffs will hurt the economy. Canada and Mexico's leaders have spoken out against the tariffs. Trump says they are meant to regulate the flow of fentanyl across the border.
People around the country are protesting some of the changes in the federal government. I was at the People's Movement protest in Chapel Hill, where people marched, carried signs, and sang songs.
So now you pissed off Grandma.
The protest was part of a nationwide movement that organised demonstrations in all 50 states against recent changes from the federal government. Protesters carried signs showing support for Ukraine, DEI programs, and farmers worried about tariffs. Signs also frequently attacked Elon Musk. I talked to protester Adrian Kirby as well as other demonstrators about what brought them to the march.
We are still mad. We are mad as hell, right? And I feel like this is our way as people to get our point across.
We cannot be silent. And so we want to support you and your generation in the future.
So Sarah, let's break this down a little bit. Protesters will now be having to follow new regulations for future gatherings after the UNC Board of Governors introduced a new policy restricting large crowd sizes. The new policy describes allowed crowd sizes as, quote, a size set by the campus administration and the appropriate campus safety official. On top of that, the administration must receive a warning about any such gathering and its intent 36 hours prior to the meeting. The policy comes after large demonstrations last spring and fall disrupted regularly scheduled operations and led to vandalism in buildings.
Now let's swap to a live shot of what's happening with the weather outside. You can still see it's raining, heavy winds, and people have stopped walking to classes. There's not as many pedestrians on the path to classes right outside our studio. It seems to have settled, but the winds might still be high. There's an umbrella, someone walking with an umbrella coming across the path now. It seems to be settled. We'll move on to immigration advocates on campus are warning against spreading false information that could cause fear and panic. This comes after rumors spread that ICE was on campus in February. These rumors were false. Ciembra UNC's co-president Jessica Gayton told us the most important thing to do if you've spotted ICE is to stay calm and verify.
That's right. And I'm wondering if we can go back outside for just a moment, because we are going to be under this thunderstorm warning until 12:15 p.m. And I want to reemphasize that even though it may look as though it has settled down a bit, Franklin Street and right here on our campus are still under this watch and warning. So water could be moving quickly. You can still see streetlights moving very swaying in the wind. And we also want to tell you that that red spot you see on the screen is the reflection of water droplets coming off of the streetlights, and nothing more than that. However, just be sure to seek shelter as we are under that thunderstorm warning. Alrighty, so again, you can see there's even a biker outside, but it might be slippery. And yeah, we're right here outside of the Carolina Union. This is where our reporter Ben Mihaljevic was earlier. And you can see those droplets, coming off of the bricks outside.
So it is still raining outside. It seems to be quieter than it was before, though. And there's Ben, getting some sound of the rain.
All right, now we want to still keep bringing you the biggest headlines for our local area, so we will keep letting you know what's going on with the weather, but for now, to an economic issue. Your tax bill could go up this year thanks to a massive increase in property values across the country. In Chapel Hill, the median home sale price this year was $660,000, up 43% from the median in 2021 of $460,000. This comes after a reevaluation of home values across several North Carolina counties showed major growths in home values across the state that ranged from 25 to 88%. Property value going up will cause large property tax increases across the state. Orange County will send out a reevaluation notice later this month, with the final bill coming out in August. Chapel Hill property owner Max Reddick explained to us how, as a student, this could affect your rent.
While property tax is on its basis in Chapel Hill, and insurance is something that we have to deal with, the increases all the time, it can be offset by rent increases, basically.
All right, Sarah, so if you disagree with your property's assessment, there's actually something you can do. You can appeal it until July 31st. All right, so we saw Franklin Street earlier, but fans are hoping it looks a little different on Saturday after the Duke game. They're eagerly awaiting the UNC Duke men's basketball game on Saturday. I talked to some Franklin Street business owners who told us that rivalry means revenue.
Athletic wear, Duke blue, and basketball. But make no mistake, this isn't Durham, and what you see is actually a magical misspelling.
No, that's actually the correct way of spelling Duke, D-O-O-K.
Matt Pate helps run the Shrunken Head Boutique and tailgate stores on Franklin Street. Just recently, his team moved their rivalry merch to the front of the Shrunken Head. Items he says attract customers, especially this time of year.
We've also got our GTHD. I'm sure everybody knows what that stands for. If you don't know, I'll let you Google it. In this store, I mean, it's wall to wall typically.
Chapel Hill Business Vitality Manager Sarah Potter says this game is critical, especially with students gone during the summer. She says those 3 months can be tough for local businesses.
Our office's focus for the past few years is really transitioning us to a 12-month economy, recruiting businesses that employ full-time professional workers.
Potter says the concentration of chains on Franklin Street may be evident, but downtown is still 75% local businesses. Last weekend, the Shrunken Head Boutique owners, along with their dog Bo, opened a new store. Pate says Tailgate will feature even more Tar Heel merch.
I would like to see more local businesses and less big corporate chains.
I think we've seen like sports tourism, like and even just like from a marketing perspective, really gravitate toward these kind of like deep-rooted stories. And so I think there's a lot of things we can kind of piggyback off and use that.
And while Pate says shoppers can Google the meaning of his shirts, Most Carolina fans know exactly what they mean. In Chapel Hill, Madeline Amati, Carolina Week.
Executive Director of the Downtown Chapel Hill Partnership, Jerry Lynn Schulke, wrote in an email statement that given UNC's recent success, fans will, quote, come out in droves leading up to Saturday. Now, if we switch to the back of the Union, where we've got a camera set up, and see what's happening with the weather. We've still got that heavy rain. It looks like something is, some sort of
spray is happening
on the side. There's still not as many people out there.
And you know what, Sarah? I think that those are water droplets bouncing off of the picnic table right outside of the Union, and that just reemphasizes how hard that rain is coming down.
Now, Louisiana and Oklahoma had these severe weather warning as well yesterday.
All right, and when we come back, more on the weather. All right, welcome back to Carolina Week. A warning that we remain under an extreme thunderstorm warning until 12:15 p.m. You can see Franklin Street right now, rain coming down, lights swinging, and we're going to talk to you more about the weather soon. But for now, over to our reporter, Sarah Jens, for another important issue.
Flu cases in North Carolina are going back up after a brief decline last week, which was the first drop since January. UNC Hospital's weekly flu and respiratory illness data reports 163 new flu cases this week and at least 40 RSV cases. So far, 9 people have died from the flu at this hospital. Pediatric Medical Director Dr. Daniel Park says this flu season has been one of the worst. It compares to the 2022 to 2023 season, which the CDC says was the worst in the last decade. Let's take a look at this graph from UNC's data. This curve right here represents the 2022, and this is this year's peak. They're almost just as high. As we head into a period where flu season overlaps with allergy season, Dr. Park says it's important to pay attention to specific symptoms.
Generally with seasonal allergies, you're not getting a fever. You know, if you have a fever and you're having a runny nose, you're having difficulty breathing, those are things to look out for.
Dr. Park advises anyone who's sick to monitor their symptoms, stay hydrated, and take precautions around others, including washing hands regularly and covering coughs or sneezes with your elbow.
All right, into an economic topic, egg prices across the country are climbing as bird flu continues to spread. Just last week, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced a $1 billion plan for tackling the outbreaks. Catherine Dehart spoke with backyard chicken farmers who say egg prices in the grocery stores aren't their problem right now.
Meet Bill. Bill lives on Aldergrove Farm near Roxborough, the homesteading project of Carolyn and John Jull.
This is the chicken yard, and out there is the vegetable garden.
He's the only rooster. The rest are hens that lay around a dozen eggs a day. The Julls sell those eggs at farmers markets for $5 a dozen. They're one of the farms that has managed to avoid the bird flu that is wiping out flocks across the country. In just the last month, the USDA found bird flu in at least 110 flocks across the country. That's more than 12 million birds. Among the latest reports, a flock of backyard chickens in Dare County, North Carolina.
The main thing keeping safe from bird flu is hand washing, which we don't have water down here, but hand washing before you come down here, and the netting over them keeps other birds from actually coming in.
An increase in prevention measures? No increase, however, in what they're charging right now for eggs coming from this small local farm.
We are very concerned about bird flu, but our prices aren't going up. Not if the bird food doesn't, not if chicken food doesn't go up.
As for Bill, life in Chick-Mahal is good for now. In Roxborough, I'm Catherine Dehart, Carolina Week.
Sarah, a note for upcoming grocery shopping. The USDA says egg prices are projected to increase by more than 40% this year. So we will definitely be following how that impacts consumers.
UNC research programs are starting to feel the effects of drastic cuts to US aid by President Trump a week ago. According to UNC Chapel Hill Media Relations, UNC has received 7 termination notices for different US aid funded projects. So far this year, UNC has received $18.3 million in direct research awards, surpassing last year's total of $17.5 million. Some of the projects affected focused on global health challenges like HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis. The university says that there is rigorous monitoring, evaluation, and research to ensure that US aid investments are effective and efficient.
As of now, UNC is still determining the impact of some of the cancellations, as well as how to communicate the impact with staff directly. All right, so the topic on everyone's mind today, the severe weather, and it certainly is just that, severe.
It is just that.
If we take a look outside, we can see that there is still water flowing around our studio.
It does seem to have reduced from before. I'm not sure if the rain has stopped, but it also seems like less students are walking to class right now.
Absolutely. I still see those umbrellas, and we're still under a warning until 12:15 p.m. So a reminder that students, you should be seeking shelter as per the university's Alert Carolina email. And we are monitoring emails as well to see if the university extends this severe thunderstorm warning too.
And as Maddie mentioned, if there is some sirens, it is not a practice like mentioned last week. It is you need to follow those sirens.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at our weather a bit more with our meteorologist, Megan Giller. Please tell us about the forecast and what we should be doing to stay safe.
Yeah, Maddie, today actually the severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern Person County and southeastern Orange counties is canceled just because the rain has moved out of our area. But that thunderstorm warning is still in effect until 12:15 for Vance, Granville, Wake, Durham, and eastern Chatham counties and western Franklin counties. That's until 12:15 today. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to what the difference between a thunderstorm watch and a thunderstorm warning is. Since we're under a thunderstorm warning, we're going to want to take shelter immediately. You don't want to be walking around. It's going to be really windy today, and we're going to see a lot of rain. But with a watch, of course, that's just the conditions are possible, and that's when we're just paying attention to the weather as we go. As we move ahead, though, we're under a level 3 enhanced risk for today until about 1 p.m., thunderstorms from 10 to 1. We'll have some damaging winds between wind gusts of 30 to 50 miles per hour. A little bit earlier, we did see that there was about 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and we saw those umbrellas moving and pushing around as well. But it also means that there's a possibility for isolated tornadoes, and we want to make sure we are paying attention. I know I'm harping on this, but we want to make sure we're paying attention to the difference between a watch and a warning. We're still under a tornado watch, which means that the tornado is possible. You want to make sure you're knowing your safe place. If it's in a storm shelter, a basement, an interior hallway, just as far away from any windows as you can. If we move into a tornado warning, that's when the tornado is happening or about to happen. This is when you're going to want to move into that safe space. But moving ahead for the rest of today, we're seeing temperatures within the 60s today. We're going to peak around 68 at 3 p.m. All of the rain, we'll still be seeing rain around noon. But as we move into this afternoon, it should taper off. And looking into the rest of this week, we're seeing 68 today, a bit of that rain, but it's going to start to look a little bit better as we move into the rest of this week with lighter skies ahead and maybe some rain on Sunday.
All right, well, thank you so much, Megan, for all of those updates. I was reading in the Alert Carolina email that there's a chance for hail. Talk to me about that and the threat that could pose.
So normally there is a little bit of hail inside of a thunderstorm. It's just where the atmosphere is really cold up there. But the radar has indicated some hail within this thunderstorm, and it's about 0.75 of an inch, which means that it's about the size of a penny. So it's not very damaging, but it could still leave a little bit of a dent on your car. And especially if it gets around 0.88 inches, that's when it starts to look around the size of a nickel. And that could definitely leave some damage on your car as well.
Thank you so much for that information. Well, let's take another look outside right now. We're seeing the rain still coming down. It's very persistent, isn't it, Sarah?
It is indeed. It doesn't look like the trees are flowing in the wind, but there's definitely still umbrellas out there, as you can see with the lady walking past.
All right, and we're going to head to the break right now and more on the weather when we come back.
All right, so still keeping an eye on the weather, we've still got Ben out there who will have an update on what it's looking like in front of the Union.
Yeah, guys, it looks like the weather has totally died down here. There's now a light mist dropping down on me. What was 5 or 10 minutes ago really pouring down and almost a torrential downfall has now almost seemingly died down. We now see students starting to walk around without umbrellas, with their hoods off, as if it's just a more normal gray day here on campus. I'm not really sure why the weather died down all of a sudden. The forecast for the rest of the day does have it supposed to rain until 4 p.m. and then it'll finally stop for good, we hope. However, we're not sure what is going on, and once again, it's died down totally and it is dry again.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for braving the elements and providing us an update on the critical weather that we are experiencing today. We really appreciate it. And a reminder that this severe thunderstorm warning remains into effect until 12:15 p.m. And Sarah, what should people at home know about the warning?
Well, ABC 11 has just released a report on what to do if you do happen to lose power. So have an alternative source and make sure if you do have medication to find a way to store that.
Again, we are in an enhanced level 3 risk. This hasn't happened in 2 years. It's rare. So please do take this seriously. Take shelter if you need to and continue to monitor all of the warnings that come in. Thank you so much.
And last time, 80,000 people did lose their power, so that is one of the things that could happen in this weather.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today on Carolina Week. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday. Actually, I take that back. We have spring break, so we will not be with you next Wednesday, but the following week we will be here for all things updates on UNC and the surrounding area.